Hey everybody, so 2023 is finally here. I feel like it rushed to get here, if I'm being honest. But what does that mean? It's time for all those top 10 lists of 2022. So today I'm here to share with you my top 10-ish books of 2022. And I cannot wait. I love all of these books so very, very much. So let's get started. Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. How are you all doing today? As always, I hope you're happy, I hope you're healthy, I hope you're safe, and of course, I hope you're reading an amazing book, or two, or three, or four. It is wet, rainy, cold, and dark here in Northern California. It is just stay inside, stay cuddled up, read, cuddle your pets, and watch some movies type of weather, which is fine by me. And yeah, I hear that the weather across the entire United States. I read an article that the UK is about to get hit by a bad weather storm. So everybody stay warm, stay safe, and read. I mean, that's my advice, and read. Today I am here to talk about the top reads I had of 2022. Now, I said it all year long. 2022 was an amazing, amazing year for books. And this was actually a hard list to pare down to just 10-ish, because there were just so many books that I wanted to champion. But I feel really comfortable with these 10 books. Books that I either can't stop thinking about or want to recommend to everybody, or things that just made me feel, cry, laugh, all of that. So, without further ado, get out your pen, get out your paper, get out your Goodreads, however you keep track of your TBR. If you are so able, I recommend that you get these books from your local independent bookstore, or if you're a library user, get your library copy as soon as possible. Okay, I'm going to do two honorable mentions, books that were just in and out. They just barely didn't make this list. I'll try to go quickly because I do want to focus on all of these books and make sure they're on your TBR if they haven't already made it there. The first book is a tiny little book called Address Unknown by Kathrine Kressman Taylor. This is out from ECCO. It was a reissue. This book originally came out in 1938 as a short story. The author wanted to bring awareness to the atrocities that were occurring in Germany by the Nazi Party. So she published this epistolary short story. It is the story of two business partners, art dealers. One is Jewish and one is not. And the Jewish one stays in New York and the other one returns to Germany. And they keep this conversation going via letter. And as the Nazis take over, the tone of everything sort of changes. The end of this book will have you gooped, gagged, and bewildered. You will start all over right again to try to figure out how you didn't see it coming. It is fantastic. So that's Address Unknown by Kathrine Kressman Taylor, out from ECCO. And I am so sad. This was really a hard book to leave off the list. It's just right there, but I absolutely loved Legends and Lattes by Baldree. This is a fantastic fantasy hug for your heart. This is the story of Viv. She's an ogre. She has always been a sellsword. She decides to hang that up and open a coffee shop. And it's all about the friendships, relationships, and people that she meets in doing so. Of course, there's intrigue and people trying to stop her and steal from her and all of that kind of stuff. So it has that fantasy element to it, but it's really a book about people and about friends and finding your place in the world. It just is absolutely lovely. So that's Legends and Lattes by Baldree, and this is out from Tor. So those were my honorable mentions. So let's get started with my top 10. Number 10 is Parish by Dr. Latoya Watkins. This is out from Tiny Rep Books, and it's a book that I just feel, sadly, not enough people are talking about. So it's a hard book actually to summarize, but our main character is Helen Jean. We meet her at the beginning. She's pregnant, and it's not a pregnancy she wanted, and it was not a pregnancy. She's very young that she deserved to have. And she is trying to get rid of the baby. As we find out, she's gotten rid of babies in the past. And she makes a deal, sort of a deal with God, that she will keep this baby and raise this baby if things just change for her. And then what happens is the book moves to the future. Helen Jean is now a grandmother, and she is ill and passing. And what we do is we start to see sort of the effects of sort of generational trauma throughout Helen Jean's children and grandchildren, and how things run in the family, sometimes dark things, and how they've sort of affected how all of this family has come to be where they are today. This book is not for the faint of heart. It definitely tackles some very, very difficult topics, but I felt that it was beautifully written, wonderfully told, and just really put like this focus on this idea of generational trauma and overcoming, or inability to overcome sometimes, what's been, what is handed down year over year. I thought it was brilliant. I cannot wait to see what Dr. Latoya Watkins does next. So this is Parish by Dr. Latoya Watkins, out from Tiny Rep Books. A book that I have a hard time actually summarizing because I don't want to give too much away, but it's definitely worth a read. Let's go a little bit lighter now to, if you all remember at the beginning of the year, I talked about how I was going to read more gay YA this year. I just really enjoy the way that gay YA makes me feel. It usually makes me cry a little bit. It usually makes me feel very happy towards the end. And I read a lot of really good gay YA this year. I actually am going to do a whole video about queer literature this year later, at a later date. But the one that's going to make this list is the absolutely lovely A Little Bit Country by Brian D. Kennedy. So this is the story of two young boys. One, and let me get their names right. One is Emmett. I think he's about 16 years old, and he wants to be sort of the first out openly gay country music star. And he is obsessed with this country legend who is no longer with us, named Wanda Jean, who has her own theme park. There's a similarity to a stellar icon in a lot of ways. He gets a job at this theme park. His parent doesn't really want him to go, but he winds up having an aunt that lives near, so he goes. He winds up meeting another young man his family is going through a lot of things, but he has a history with Wanda Jean and Wanda Jean's theme park, so he has a very different take. And they meet each other, and these two young boys, their relationship sort of starts. One is in the closet, one is not. And as things go on, we learn that there's more to the Wanda Jean story than we ever thought before. And it sort of brings the families together, it brings these boys closer together, and it's just what you need if you want to, at the end of a book, feel good. You do. It's just lovely. It's absolutely lovely. So that's A Little Bit Country by Brian D. Kennedy. I cannot wait at all to see what Brian writes next. And his obsession with Dolly Parton is an obsession I share, so I'm even more of a fan for that alone. Okay, so the next book is probably one of the biggest releases of the year, and one book that just did not disappoint me. I thought it was absolutely fantastic, and that's Our Missing Hearts by Celeste Ng. This one is out. Oh, I should say who Balzer and Bray is the publisher of A Little Bit of Country. This one is out from Penguin Press. Okay, sorry. Sometimes I get so excited I forget to say the publisher. This is sort of, it's not dystopian. It's like a slightly alternative history where America's gone through all of this terrible stuff, and they've created a law that basically blames everything that has gone on anti-American sentiment focused mainly on Asian Americans. And what happens here is that we have a main character named Birdie. He lives with his father. He is of mixed race. His mom, who was Asian American, has disappeared. And we learn very quickly that him and his father have to pretend that they just have no contact, no desire to contact the mother because they're afraid of him being taken away. Now, there's a revolution going on. There are these people and revolting against what is called PACT and this law against that's really enforcing all of these anti-Asian sentiments. And they're using bits of a poem called the phrase "Our Missing Hearts" that was written by Birdie's mom. Well, one day Birdie gets a letter, and it's actually a picture drawing that he believes lets him know where his mom is, and he goes on a journey to find her. And that is really where I want to stop with this book. This book deals with so many things that are present, very much so, in our current modern society. Birdie is a fantastically realized character. He has such a beautiful way of sort of trying to figure out the world. The love between parents and children is very on display. And I think what this book does more than any other book in my list is it takes this idea that could so become real for us and shows us all the angles of it, and gives us an opportunity to figure out what we want to do about it, if that makes sense. So I just thought it was beautiful. I've read all of Celeste's 3 books. I think she is a fantastic writer. So I loved Our Missing Hearts by Celeste. I thought it was fan-freaking-tastic. Okay. The next book I read was just absolute fun, and that's The Change by Red. This is my top 10, Russell. So this is book number 10, 9, 8, 7. 7 in the list. You can tell I'm used to doing wrap-ups. Number 7 on my list is The Change by Kirsten Miller. This is out from William Morrow. This book is just absolutely what you need if you want a page turner. So this is about 3 women who have hit menopause, and when they do so, they each get an individual power. One can talk to ghosts and see ghosts. One sort of becomes immensely strong, and the other one sort of becomes like this herbalist witch. And what happens is they live in a community, and the one who can speak to ghosts finds the body of a dead young girl. Now, the police department tries to sweep it under the cover, tries to say it's a suicide, an overdose of drugs, but she knows that it's not. And what happens is these 3 women start to investigate this murder, and it becomes much bigger than one young girl. And it starts to you start to see the cracks in this very rich and wealthy community that lives up on the hill that you have to be sort of invited into. And these women just take care of each other. They kick butt beyond all beliefs, but you learn about them. You learn about their family situations, their history, sort of how the misogyny of the world has treated them. And now they have this ability to do something about it at the next level. It is a fantastic read. You will read it in no time flat, even though it feels a little big. The characters are great. The writing is great. It's just so much fun. So and it's a murder mystery too. So all of that combined, and I apologize, there's a plane going by right now. Hopefully you're not hearing that too much. That's The Change by Kirsten Miller, out from William Morrow Books. Absolutely loved it. Highly recommend it. All over the place. Okay. So number 6 on my list is Young Mungo by Douglas Stuart, also probably one of the big releases of 2022. This is out from Grove in the United States. I have both covers, the UK and the US, because I think they're both fantastic. Douglas Stuart, of course, won the Booker Prize for Shuggie Bain. No introduction needed there. I actually think that Young Mungo is even better than Shuggie Bain. I loved this book. So the story of a young boy named Mungo, who at the beginning of the novel is being sent away. Something has happened that his mom is sending him away to sort of man up in the country with 2 men she knows from her AA meeting. What then happens is the book sort of takes 2 different turns. One, we go back in time to learn about Mungo and his family and his relationships with his sister and his brother, and how he got to the event that causes him to be sent away. And then the other part is what happens with the men that he is sent away with. And this book is a lot about terrible parenting in a lot of ways. It is also what young Mungo winds up doing is he winds up meeting a young Catholic boy who owns a pigeon. I can't remember the word for it. I apologize. But a house full of pigeons. They'll create a relationship. It becomes romantic. But you have the Catholic-Protestant divide. His brother is on one side leading a gang of Protestants, sort of the local Protestant gang, and the infighting between those 2 groups. So there's a lot of that going on. But at the heart of this book is Mungo and his sort of coming to realization of who he is. I just thought this book was beautiful. Again, there are a lot of books on this list that left me in absolute tears. This is one of them. And I just think that this was such an amazing book. I highly recommend it. So this is Young Mungo by Douglas Stuart, out from Grove in the United States. Hopefully I did an okay job of summarizing that one. Okay. So I always wait till the absolute last minute to make this list, because you never know what book you're going to read last in December, and if it will be a book that changes your year. I actually have 2 books that I read this month, and both of them are on this list. And the first one I want to tell you about is The Other Mother by Rachel M. Harper. This is out from, excuse me, Counterpoint, I believe. Yes, Counterpoint Press. I bought this at Vroman's bookstore in Pasadena. I was there for work one night, and I got this autographed copy. So this book is a family drama and has so many twists and turns. In every section sort of upends what you think you knew in the previous section. So at the heart of this book is Genry. Genry is a young man. He's just entered college, and he goes to this college. He is raised by a single mom, but he knows that his father was at this university. His mom was at the university. He knows that his father was at this university. His father died when he was very, very young too, I think. And he knows nothing about him. And so he goes to the university, and he winds up finding out that his grandfather is a professor, a retired professor, but still has an office on the university campus. He goes and he sees his grandfather, wanting to know about his father. And very soon, I don't think this is at all a spoiler, he finds out that he's not looking for his grandfather's son. He really should be looking for his grandfather's daughter, who was in a relationship with Genry's mom and helped raise him for the first 2 years of her life. And it goes from there. It tells you all about each sort of other has a section. So we learn about Genry, his growing up, sort of what took him away from, I think it's Providence. I apologize, my brain can't remember the name of the city. I think it's Providence. I think he rhymes at like Brown University. I apologize if the city's wrong. And then we get a section from the other mother, the grandfather, the other grandfather. And you start to learn all of these pieces to this puzzle that have brought this young boy to this college and to this point in his life. And you learn the history of all of these people. And it's all about made family. That's really what I walked away with it. It's about how family is never what you think it is. And we all make choices. There's a lot about deception and what we tell our children and what we don't tell our children. Henry's biological mother still chooses to keep things from him, even as, all of this stuff comes out. I just thought this book was so brilliant. This dive into what makes a family and everyone thinks they're keeping secrets, but no one else is keeping secrets from them, and what that turns into and how that snowballs. The writing is brilliant. All of the characters are so, so beautifully well done. And yeah, by the end of it, you don't know. You will think you know, but you do not know how this book will end. And it ended in tears. So there you go. So that's The Other Mother by Rachel M. Harper, out from Counterpoint Press. Okay. Actually, there's lots of tears to come, people. I read the entire Booker long list this year. Lots of amazing, amazing books on that list. But one that really just absolutely stuck with me was Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies by Maddie Mortimer. This was long listed. This is out in the US from Scribner Books. It was long listed. It didn't make the short list, which I think was really sad. But it's just a book that I have never forgotten that I read. So basically, and this is a debut novel too, which is mind-blowing to me. This is the story of a family of 3, a mother, a father, and a daughter. Their mother has dealt with cancer in the past, and at the start of the book, it has reoccurred. And this time it's bad. They do not think she is going to make it. So the book is about the family and the different dynamics of the family dealing with that diagnosis, from the daughter to the father, to the husband, to the wife, to the mother, and all of the relationships around that. We learn the history of the daughter, how she came into being. We learn about relationships in the past. What is also brilliant about this book is there are sections where cancer itself has a voice. Very poetically dark and nemesing, but also just, is that the word? Did I just make up a word? I probably just made up a word. Menacing is probably what I meant to say. But also very just straightforward and almost like logical that this is what cancer does. It's only doing what it is expected to do because this is its mission. And I thought that was just a brilliant take. The author also does lots of stuff stylistically in the pages. She puts, it's just very poetic in nature at times. Yeah, it is beautiful. It is heartrending. It is tearful. It is so very, very good. Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies, Maddie Mortimer, amazing, amazing book. Okay. Now my top 3 books of the year could have gone in any direction because I love all 3 of them very, very, very much. And 2 of them have gotten a lot of praise all year long. So, these books are all amazing. So this top 3 could change if it were tomorrow when I was making this video. But for now, in number 3 is Trust by Hernan Diaz. This is out by Riverhead Books in the US, also longlisted for the Booker Prize. I just thought this book was brilliant from start to finish. This is a sort of a meditation on the idea of making money in America, told in 4 different sections in 4 different sort of literary styles. The first section is a fictional book about a billionaire and how he made his money. The second section is an autobiography, a rebuttal by the man that fictional billionaire was based upon. The third is sort of a memoir journal, more of a memoir of a woman who worked for that billionaire. And then the fourth section is the journal of his wife, and while she is in a facility because she is very, very ill. And what happens, again, like I said about The Other Mother, this is a book where each section tells you what you didn't know about, like what you thought you knew was wrong. But what's really fascinating is that there's like a distance from all of this, because at the center of this book is a man who makes money hand over fist, and how that affects America, how that affects people around him, his relationships, his society, and how not only does he sort of judge others, but how he is judged for what he does and his ability to so successfully just earn capital. It is fascinating. It is told, each section stands alone, but all of them together just make what I think may be a classic novel that makes it throughout history. I think this book is absolutely brilliant. And that's Trust by Hernan Diaz, out from Riverhead Books. I loved it. I was floored it did not make the short list. Gosh, a lot of these books, like the one I'm going to talk about next, were all on that Booker long list. But I had been aware of Trust and the next book way before the Booker long list came out. Book number 2, The Trees by Percival Everett, a book that I think really needs no introduction. I have raved about this book on my list 100,000 times. I think it's amazing. It is a social satire. It is dark, but it is, how do you summarize this book? So basically, this is about a town, I think it's called Money, Mississippi, where a murder occurs, which sort of starts the rolling block of the whole entire novel. A white man has been killed, and beside him is found the dead body of a black man who looks like the young man Emmett Till, who was killed. I want to say like 35 or 40 years ago. I can't remember the exact time. I apologize. So it starts this investigation into these murders, because more murders start to happen, and this body of this black man disappears and it reappears at all of these different murder sites. And then it sort of just snowballs from there. So you have the investigation going on into these murders, and you have you're learning about this town, the people in it, why maybe these people were murdered in the first place, and all of the stuff that goes with that. But it starts to get so absurd, like the amount of murders and this idea of all of these dead people around and walking around and all that. And I think that was Percival Everett's point, my humble opinion. This book really brings into focus the fact that there are so many murders that occur in the United States in the marginalized communities that are just brushed over. However, if a white man or woman are murdered, it becomes sort of sensationalized and everybody's focused on it. So it's this idea is that as this sort of snowballs and stuff, those are the ones that everyone's talking about. But in reality, there's all of these murders of people, Black men and women, Black trans women, you know, gay men and women, all sorts of marginalized communities that are murdered and no one ever talks about, and the horror of sort of that idea. I thought this book was brilliant. I think it is probably way above my brain level as just a casual reader, but it just changed the way I think about books and literature. That's The Trees by Percival Everett, out from Grey Wolf Press here in the United States. Okay, last but not least is a book that I read and I had no idea I was going to love it as much as I did. I was sobbing at the end of this book. I told you there's a theme of tears in 2022's reading list, but it's a book that has done so much for me on many different levels, and that is They're Going to Love You by Meg Howry. This is out from Doubleday, and this book was freaking brilliant. So how to start this book? Let's start with Carlisle. Carlisle is our main character. She is, at the start of the book, she's a young woman. We find out that she receives a call from her father's partner, that her father, who she has not seen in 19 years, is ill and is at the end of his life. We learn through flashbacks and that when she was younger, Carlisle, her mother and father got a divorce. She moved with her mother, I believe, to the Midwest. And she wanted more than anything to go live with her father and his partner in New York in their home. Dance is very, very important to this family. And what I think Meg, who is a dancer, did beautifully is talk and sort of, this isn't about dance companies. This is not about competitiveness in that manner. This is about dance as a way of being. Carlisle's mom was a ballerina and after she got pregnant with Carlisle, sort of had to make changes and she moved to the Midwest. And both her father and her father's partner are in dance. And Carlisle is in that world as well. And we learn about her obsession as a youngster with dance and how she sort of wanted that to be her identity and what happens when it can't be what you think it's going to be. But also, there's this event that occurred. They were really close. She was there all the time, but there's been a 19-year gap and she hasn't seen her father. And what the book is so good at doing is keeping you on the edge of your seat on what happened and what was the event that fell apart. And Carlisle is a very complex character because in the beginning, you're sort of wanting to blame the father. And you want to blame that something went on over there because we learn sort of how he is as a person through these flashbacks. But as we come along, Carlisle sort of becomes a 360 flawed person in and of herself. I hope that did it. So this is a book about family, and this is a book about the complexity of family. This is a book about finding yourself, dance in a lot of ways. I will say I looked up, Meg mentions a lot of classical music throughout the book. And I would look it up on my iPad, put it in my ears when I was reading, and I have become obsessed with a lot of the music from this book. Made an entire playlist based mainly on the music that came out of this novel. And at the end, sort of the moment at the end, which I'm not going to spoil, had me, it destroyed me. I didn't read another page for like 4 days after I finished this book. I just couldn't. So my number one read of 2022 is Theyre Going to Love You by Meg Howry, out from Doubleday. And I don't know that anyone is talking enough about this book, but please, please, please buy it and read it and say Russell sent you, because you will not be disappointed. So these top 10 lists or top, lists are always a little bit longer. So I thank you so much for sticking around and watching this entire video. I really, really appreciate it. I want to thank you all for 2022. It was a crazy year as far as everything going on for me. So I hope my goal in 2023 is to put more content up and be more consistent. So that's what I'm aiming for. But if you've stuck around, I thank you so much. If you are new to my channel, I hope you subscribe, click the button, do all of that. That only helps my channel grow. And as always, I encourage you to read globally, shop locally, and until next time, I wish you happy reading. Bye, everybody.